My name is Maura Girvan and I teach on a variety of courses at SRC Newry campus. And the work I've been doing at the moment has been focusing on the foundation degree in systems analysis and design. The subjects I teach then are varied and not always practical. So it's not always easy to keep the students engaged for a longish period of time. The other problem, I suppose, or a challenge with regard to teaching units to the different age groups, if you have a level 3 person, getting them to participate in Moodle for a variety of pieces of learning material. So I might have slides, and I might have a quiz, and I might have a website to view. And when they're all in different areas, again, for the student, when they've gone to one area, then that's the field that they've done some work. Whereas I felt maybe if I had some way of encapsulating the whole thing, that they could access that at one point only. But I suppose back to this point of the student trying to interact and to get the best out of a subject area or a particular topic. If it's not interactive and it's not engaging and it's not what they're used to, then sometimes it seems boring. But if it can be transformed in some way, that the student then can maybe get something extra from it. And also the good thing is if we could have them doing it in their own time, so they're being used the class time for other assessment or development of the material. One of the things about the systems analysis unit that some people feel is that there's a lot of theory and it can become quite dry, possibly. So particularly if it's a part-time course and you have to deliver, which we would have with the foundation degree, and they may have 2.5 hours at one night systems analysis, that can seem quite heavy going and maybe not always the best use of the time when you have the students in the college. So there was several people involved in systems analysis who felt that it might be worthwhile considering it as, doing something different with it. Start out trying to think of what topic you're going to do if you're not going to do the whole course. But then with regard to the topic is looking at your existing materials and wondering how you can change those. And you're aware that the student's not going to be sitting right beside you, so they're not going to be able to ask you questions. So everything has to be very clear. And then you realise that often the material isn't clear. So even for a student to participate in Moodle and look at some materials, they wouldn't maybe understand them when they're away from the classroom. So it's probably been quite a good experience in the development of blended learning in terms of a reflective. Of course we'll always reflect on everything we do and you can't help it, it's only human nature, but this was a particularly good part of this whole process, because you had to sort of think, well, if we're doing this from scratch and you've never known anything about this before and you don't have anybody to ask about, what do you really need to know? So that's something I suppose that was really good about the process. And again, then looking at the current materials, that's time consuming, trying to slim those down and edit those and make sure your sequence is right, so that you don't have things out of sequence or that information is just popping up which has never been mentioned before, which you could do in a classroom, because then you could sort of say, well, oh yes, that's something extra we need to look at now. I've selected a lesson on data flow diagrams from the Systems Analysis and Design module on the foundation degree. One of my main aims was to make my lesson materials more engaging, as well as to give students a little more freedom in terms of access to materials online at a time that suits them. There's some work involved in transforming teaching materials from a traditional format to one which is suitable for online delivery. Some of the steps include adding narration to PowerPoint slides to put things in context for my students, as I won't be standing in front of them for this lesson.
Now take a few moments to practice drawing a Level 0 DFD. Use pen and paper for this exercise. Read the mini scenario on the screen and then draw a single process box to represent SRC Retail. Now identify and draw the external entity. Then go on and identify the 4 major data flows and draw them on the DFD to link them with the process box. When you're happy with your solution, click Next to check your answer against mine. I hope you got on fine. If you are having problems, don't worry, as we will cover some further examples in the next slides, so you will get more practice.
I also created a number of short videos using a tool called Video Scribe to clearly illustrate topics I would have previously demonstrated in class. I used a tool called Go Animate to create a little animated scenario to support one of my activities. In the past, I would have given the students a written version of the scenario in a Word document.
Brona, there has been a temporary file started for student applications. Would you transfer all these applications for the September 2014 courses onto the applications database?
No problem, Jason. Will I arrange a room, time and interviewer to carry out the interview?
Go Animate is a creative way to turn a script or story into an animated video, which is more engaging and memorable for the students. I also created a number of quizzes at various points throughout the lesson. The final step was to embed everything in my PowerPoint slides and wrap it up with Articulate Studio, and it was ready then to put in Moodle. There's lots of benefits from the blended learning. For example, the student can do the work away from the classroom, and it means then that, as I said, the classroom time can be better spent doing something else, or developing further activities, or finding out where the problems are. So if they've done their work and they've emailed it to me, then we can look at the problems and we can maybe make progress quicker and faster. Other benefits, I suppose, from the student's point of view, then definitely the fact that it's all in one place, and that's very good, and that it's quite interactive, and yet it's very accessible, and it's got a nice environment for the student. Other benefits then, well, I suppose maybe things that are, from my point of view, I don't think there's many not good things about it, because it's really just another presentation method, but it's a good presentation method, and it's got a good bit of interaction, and there's variety there, so that to extend into, when you learn those tools, you could develop further into a bit more variety and get more feedback from the students as well. I use my classroom time more productively, in terms of the student will have the information, they'll have done some examples, and when they come to class they'll be better prepared to do further examples, and also then to discuss any problems they have. And we can also then, which we intend to do, is use some time for more assessment in class. Yes, I think they will. I think the students will be receptive. Generally they're into technology anyway, and I think that for the most part, obviously the foundation degree, they are motivated. They do want to learn, and although I say they'll meet many subjects with different varieties of complexity and different content, but at the end of the day they want to do well. So if they can get some way of doing that easier in many ways, and I said with regard to maybe almost like for us that we could have time out for they to go off and have independent study to work on the blended learning, and then come back to the class. So it would just give them a bit of a break to be independent and do their own thing. Some colleagues have looked at the blended learning, the little topic that I have produced, and they have shown interest in certain aspects of it, such as, for example, the scribe, that seems a nice thing, particularly if you have a lot of diagrams, and it's a good way of presenting those. So there would be interest. I suppose really my colleagues have said they don't have time allocated, and that's very difficult. A lot of people have the skills already in different ways, because it's not that much different than using traditional word processing, spreadsheets, databases, PowerPoints. It's pretty similar to all of that, but at the end of the day it's using it in a different way, and all these things take training. The staff would need more training time, but also development time. It's a different type of work really than your normal duties, and so we have our normal duties which are so diverse and span so much and need so much time, and this is a different type of duty which is development of learning materials. It's specialised in many ways, and the good thing is obviously as a lecturer then you have the knowledge, the content knowledge, and then you have to then develop the expertise in the software, but that doesn't happen just overnight. I would like to create more materials with regard to the blended learning, but and I think I will, but again of course it's you need the support, and I was very lucky to have lots of support from RSC&I, and so I think that yes, I would like to do some more. At the moment I haven't delivered this to the students, and it'll be late September before we're looking at this topic, so I'm really looking forward to finding out how they feel about it and whether they will interact with it and get benefit from it. So, and I'll know that really, I'll be able to monitor their participation and then the results of their work that they submit. So there's a couple of assessment exercises and I'll find out the results, but then they'll also do the last exercise, which is where they submit by email, and that will be really good to know then whether it was a success.